Hello, I'm here with Irvin and Caitlin to talk about Delete Me, which surprised me a lot. And it is Friday, August 23rd, 2024. So let's start with Caitlin, who has news about Windows.
I have news about Windows, and I also have even bigger news. The
Ah,
biggest news, of course, is that Starbucks has their pumpkin spice lattes back. So
yeah.
if you are a middle-aged
Well,
woman like me, I highly recommend going to Starbucks, getting those pumpkin spice lattes.
What is
and
the
you know
exact
that's the
news?
official sign that we're in fall.
Exactly, exactly. It's officially fall.
Is there some particular reason why this appeals to middle-aged women?
I don't know, but it's delicious, and
I,
that's the target demographic.
I remember I read in a barista's page years ago that the old men always want just black coffee, and I'm totally in that that case. So it does seem like demographic splits of Starbucks orders are pretty strong.
All right. Anyway, so now that we got that out of the way, it's officially fall. We got our pumpkin spice lattes. Let's talk about something that will be going away, which is the Windows control panel. So let's see
Like,
if
kind
I
of
can.
sad.
Yeah, you would think it would be gone by now, but oops, what am I doing? There we go. Aha, I know how to do a computer. So this is on neowin.net by Sen. Sen wrote this article. And apparently Microsoft is looking to drop the control panel. Now, the truth of the matter is that the new control panel, the settings pane or whatever, that they changed twice, now there's like three panels, doesn't have all the features that the control panel has. And I still have to go into the control panel once in a while when I'm doing advanced networking and stuff like that. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But it does look like Microsoft's finally getting rid of this. And the funny thing is Microsoft is so concerned about backwards compatibility, and I get it. Backwards compatibility is super important. But it gets to the point where it makes the interface very clunky when you have three or four control panels, really.
You know, it occurs to me, I thought I didn't care, and then I realized the only way I can get anything done on modern Windows systems is to start with the command line and type control net connections to. If they take away the command line control panel, I don't think I'll be able to reach the all-important screens that they keep hiding. Like, you always have to get to the screen that shows your adapters so you can refresh DHCP and stuff, and they keep changing the process to get there in every version, so students and I can never find it. I've just gone back to using the MS-DOS command line.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get rid of the control panel, but
Hmm.
the the app will still be there somewhere. Yeah,
This is
if you
typical for
yeah.
Microsoft. When they get rid of something, they really just sort of hide it a little bit, but it's still there.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll find out. Microsoft is a very strange company. The way they put so much effort into making their product hard to use and moving everything around just to drive you nuts for no reason.
Yeah, I mean they could have just updated the control panel or you
Yeah.
know done something like that, but then they're like, oh, we'll have a new settings app. And
Yeah.
then that was 10. And then they're like, actually, you know what? That setting app is kind of boring. We'll add a super settings app for Windows 11. And it's like,
And we'll
why?
take away all the technical stuff, which no one can understand anyway, and just have high level management stuff so you can't actually adjust an IP address or anything.
Yeah, who wants to set their own IP address? That's silly.
That's right. You can, I mean, I think all through Microsoft, it's abundantly obvious that there's a bunch of like business managers arguing with technical people without understanding the technical details, it seems. Pushing back
I
on them,
th
saying, oh, get rid of that technical stuff, hide the file name extensions, who cares about that, and things like that.
Yeah, I've noticed that working in corporate that there are some high level engineers, but there's also a lot of high level non-technical people sort of driving the product forward. And I think that having that diversity is important. Because no one's all the technical people are going to be like, let's make our operating systems all command line. Who needs a GUI? I mean, it's like, come on, we do have users that don't like computers, and we got to make it easy for them. But a lot of the times, it's not an equal balance between the engineers and the non-technical people, and a lot of times the non-technical people really get their ideas pushed to the detriment to the final product.
Well, to be fair, they ought to tell all us geeks to just use server core and PowerShell and stop complaining And really, they got a point. That's what I should be doing.
Correct. Agreed.
All right. Anyway, I was really amazed to see this with a fun video on Bleeping Computer by Bill Chulos. They got an article about this new Ngate Android malware, which does something I've heard about but never seen live. It infects, you download, they trick you into installing malicious app, and then it starts turning on the NFC and reading your credit card information and sending it to another phone, which can then make purchases. It can make contact, they show it in action. It can read the credit card, and the other guy can walk up and buy something with your credit card from a remote phone because there was a tool apparently written by academics to test the functionality of NFC that will harvest NFC and send it off over the internet. So they built that tool into their malware. It will just read the magnetic or the radio information from payment items and send it to another phone who can then spit it out at the NFC. So it's bloody awesome. Anyway, and of course, I don't think
That's
there's
cool.
anything. Yeah, I don't think there's anything much you can do except run antivirus on your phone and not download dodgy apps. But since the Google Play Store is full of dodgy apps, that's not so easy to avoid them.
So
Anyway,
obviously the iPhone's superior.
well, the iPhone is superior, yes, because they actually police the App Store much better. So it's actually pretty hard to get malware on an iPhone. And to be fair, people say only like 1% of phones are actually infected at any given time, but I think are mostly Androids. Running antivirus on your Android is probably the wisest precaution to take. That would give you a second chance of detecting a malicious app. Anyway, let's go on to Irvin. You've got a very strange claim that Find My could be social. Does this make any sense?
Well, yeah, because people get tired of things like Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. They want something that's a little more personal. And what's more personal than sharing your location with people?
Oh,
With
so
people that
this
you're
is
close to.
so this is like Grindr, where it would tell you the physical location of people you might want to hook up with.
Yeah, but the difference is Find My wasn't built for that. Find My app was built for to show you where your AirTag is, or your phone, or whatever Apple device is part of your ecosystem. But you can also, through it, share location with friends or family members that are part of that. You give them your Apple ID to.
So you have to be like a gregarious person that wants to have other people come take you off to go play and stuff. I must
Yeah.
I must say I'm mostly involved in getting away from people so I can hack things. But I think I'm in a
Yeah.
different
So
stage of
this
life.
wouldn't be for this little funny thing wouldn't be for you. But
No,
for
not
others who want to share their location with each other, like
yep.
family members or friends, that's becoming more popular. To just, instead of a status update on social media or something, just here's my location, and you can see where I'm at.
But it doesn't. There's no way to like send text or video or anything, right? It's just your location.
Not through Find My, no.
Yeah. So now, it didn't Foursquare used to do this? I think that was the whole point of Foursquare, is it broadcast your real location to people you were chatting with.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't quite remember, but this has been a feature of the Apple ecosystem for a while. Now it's getting more popular to do something different with it.
All right. Well, let's go back to Caitlin with the guy that faked his own death. I saw
Yeah,
this.
so this is pretty interesting. Bleeping Computer has an article by Bill Tolis, and it's about a man who was recently sentenced for essentially hacking the Hawaiian registry to fake his own death. Okay, so what's going on here? If I can figure out how to use my computer. There we go. So this guy, his name is Keith, I believe. KIPF, Kipf. He basically got some creds, accessed the Hawaii death registry system, and he used the creds from a physician in another state, and then basically signed his own death certificate, which made him effectively deceased in the eyes of the government. Why would someone do this? Well, of course, it's to get out of paying child support. So he's a complete scummy ass of a person.
I was going to guess that because Zaphod Beaglebrox was dead for a year for tax purposes, which is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he did a bunch of other stuff too. Like he stole a bunch of other people's identities, created credit card accounts with them, identity theft. This guy's a scumbag. And including the unpaid child support, the total crimes, the damages went up to almost 200,000 US dollars. So he got caught. He's being sentenced. Or he was sentenced, I should say, and that's the end of that. Don't be a bad hacker, people. Be good with computers.
Yeah, that's not
But
why
how
I
are people
do.
supposed to pay their debt?
Yeah.
School debt.
I mean, unless it's funny, don't do any malicious hacking.
What's surprising is that you get the power and that's what you do, kill yourself. It didn't seem like
Yeah.
the first thing you'd think of doing.
It's and to get out of child support too, like just
Well, yeah.
love your children, people.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
care of them.
Yeah, that would be better. Well, I was surprised to see this one. A threat group from China apparently is deploying malware on Cisco Nexus switches, and I know the NSA leaked out their attacks against routers and firewalls and such, but attacking the switches is apparently even better because these switches are running a Cisco operating system, which isolates you from the operating system underneath. Underneath, there's Linux or something, but you can't get to it. So the switch installs a rootkit on the Linux or some kind of malware directly on Linux, and you can't detect it or remove it by running the software that Cisco gives you. So it sounds pretty bad. The only thing that is not clear to me, and they don't seem to explain it, is exactly what good is it to own a switch? I mean, by itself, you're not going to accomplish anything by owning a switch. I would think the only point of it is to leverage further attacks on the servers that contain data and such. But anyway, it is something I'm hearing more and more about is taking over these peripheral edge devices, which typically do not have logs. They don't have antivirus. How are you going to ever detect that your end devices are owned? How are you going to clean them off if they're owned? They don't have antivirus, they don't have tripwire, and you can't put it on. So I'm really thinking there's going to be a market for more secure edge devices like firewalls and switches. It seems to me like you could make one that runs from perhaps a read-only operating system or has some kind of integrity check on every boot up that every file has the correct signature or hash so nothing can be modified. And that seems like it'd be easy enough to make and would be a lot better. But it's a weak spot in our current networks.
That's pretty cool to use the switch as
Yeah.
your beachhead.
And you wonder how many are infected. How would you ever know? I mean, if it's done without making a huge mistake, I don't see how you'd ever know your switch is infected. There's no tool you could run to test it.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. And let's go on with you with Chick-fil-A. What is this nonsense?
So Chick-fil-A is getting into the business of streaming. They actually own a what you would call it, a studio that has helped to make Marvel movies.
Make
So they're
Marvel
not
movies?
necessarily going. Yeah.
Chick-fil-A makes Marvel movies?
Yes. They make part of Marvel movies. Yes, they're involved.
What part?
I don't know.
The part
but
where they eat
do help-
sandwiches.
Yeah, apparently they do help in creating movies. So it looks like Chick-fil-A is gonna branch off and do its own streaming service.
So
You
we're
know,
going to
like
have
Chick-fil-A
Chick-fil-A
Plus or
original.
something.
We're going to have Chick-fil-A original video productions.
I mean, we've had Hallmark forever and a day.
Well, that actually has an
Why not?
audience. But who in the world would watch Chick-fil-A videos?
I don't know, conservative.
Well, that's what someone said on Mastodon. They said it would be religious or political stuff. Maybe they'll be as popular as Mike Lindell's channel.
Maybe more. I mean, it's chicken.
Well, yeah, and their big thing is being Christian and being closed on Sundays, right? So
Yeah. So the Lord's Chicken might come up with some good stuff. You never know.
I guess so. All right, that's something to
You
look
never
forward
know
to.
what right? Right? You never know what homophobic episode of Chicken will come out.
Well, it will be much more entertaining if you have pumpkin spice latte to go with it, I guess. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's go back to Caitlin with the asteroid mining.
Yeah. So we have big news in asteroid mining, and that it seems to be starting to happen, at least in the private sector. So a bit of background before we talk about asteroid mining, or this article, I should say. Let's talk about asteroid mining and why that's important. A lot of very expensive minerals and metals are very hard to get to on Earth. Essentially, the early Earth was essentially a liquid, and it, like lava on the surface, right? It's a liquid. Very hot. It's a liquid. So what happens? Dense stuff falls to the center. So we have essentially an iron core because that's very dense, and there's a lot of iron. And then we have the lighter elements on top, like calcium and silicon, and a few other minerals. But things like gold, titanium, that could be really hard to get to on Earth. Not necessarily so on an asteroid, which has the same processes created the same way, but is much smaller, so you can get to the center. And we see this a lot. Iron-rich asteroids will come and slam into Earth, and you can look at the nice shiny metallic center. And if we could mine asteroids cheaply, we could get an abundance of metals that would basically topple a bunch of markets. And so this is very much in private industry's interest. This isn't something the government would do because, I mean, there's no scientific reason to do this, just monetary. But it's not simple. I mean, if it were simple, people would have done this already. This is literally astronomically complex of an operation. You have to set up a bunch of mining equipment to go up and not only grab the samples, but bring them back safely. And do it all automatically without, with robots and stuff. And some companies are starting to do it. So let's go over to the article. So Eric Berger, again, from Ars Technica, has our great space headlines this week, and it's about a company that is making headway into asteroid mining. And so far, they only have one CubeSat up, and this is the CubeSat, I believe. There's the Odin spacecraft, so maybe that's the second one. That's going to go up pretty soon. But they put one up just to check if it worked. And at the end of the year, they're going to be setting up another spacecraft called Odin. This one. So this is Odin. Later this year, they're going to throw up Odin, which is going to do a flyby of some asteroids, take pictures, make sure that works. And then the satellite after that is going to essentially dock with an asteroid and then do mineral analysis, like spectroscopy, like until it runs out of batteries and dies. So they get that information. And then after that, I guess they'll start doing some initial mining. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. I look forward to seeing this new industry pop up.
It seems very logical. The only issue is financial. I mean, how much money would it take? We're already investing hundreds of billions of dollars in AI, assuming it will have a big payoff someday. And here the payoff is much easier to understand. I think Psyche itself is like 100 tons of platinum and stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know if we want to go after the huge giant asteroids or the, completely mine out the minor planets, dwarf planets. But there's a lot of rare minerals and stuff that we could mine.
I mean, certainly there's the metal is right there. The only question is how much would it cost to get some kind of rocket to go up and get it?
Not only get it, but bring it back.
Right.
So remember, weight is expensive in space.
Right.
And, part of the problem is we can get there. That's not a problem. Getting tons and tons of material back in a way that's economical, that's a little bit more difficult.
I would think you'd use something like a solar sail, let it take several years, and let it just crash somewhere where you can get it, like in a desert or in the ocean. Would seem like the logical thing to do.
Exactly. And I mean, and that's what they're doing here. They're just doing step by step, CubeSat by CubeSat to, figure out the best way to do this, what kind of issues pop up, how to make sure your equipment lasts a long time to make sure that you can get it back slowly.
Yeah.
And also timing is an issue too. People might not realize this, but you can't just be like, oh, we're done. We're going to head back now. If you're going to use something like a solar sail, or any engine really, you have to plan ahead of time. And with a solar sail, you're going to be decelerating or accelerating at such a slow pace, it might take several rotations of Earth around the sun, several years,
Yeah.
as we usually call them, to match up and then do a intersection
Mm-hmm.
between the orbits. And then you have to just plan it out way ahead, do the math, and it might take years in transit. And who knows what can go wrong? Spacecraft can, one of the solar panels might die. Who knows?
Well, I know we're getting to the point where you can send up a CubeSat for just $5,000 on like a SpaceX rocket. So it's getting much cheaper to make it to space. So this sounds more and more practical to me.
Yeah, it is. It is practical, but it's not necessarily. You have to measure. You have to take into account the cost. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of material there.
Yeah.
But the cost of setting up a probe, getting it on there, spending years drilling and getting the material back, would offset the cost of getting the materials in the first place. It's probably cheaper to find platinum, that amount of platinum on Earth. Spend a year mining on Earth versus spending, 5 years plus the, development costs and the fact you're going to lose a few CubeSats along the way, or just satellites in general along the way, and the rocket might blow up and it costs all this money.
Yeah, but the payoff is
get
so
the same.
huge. I mean, you get such a huge amount of valuable metal. It seems like it would be justified pretty easily.
If you
Maybe
can
we
get the
should just
costs down.
colonize the moon.
We're working on that. We'll colonize the moon. That's not a problem. But the moon has the same issue as Earth.
Mhm.
So on the moon, all the valuable materials, even more so, are sunk down. So the way the moon was formed was that a big astronomical body collided with the Earth, and a lot of the upper minerals on Earth, think the silicates, think carbon, solidified into the moon. So the moon is about 1/3 the size of Earth, but only about 1/6 the gravity, I think, because it's very much like garbage.
Yeah, it's very much
Like,
lacking heavy metals, right?
yeah, there's not many heavy metals, nothing really valuable up there. I mean, if you want regolith, I mean, that's fine, go for it. But
Yeah.
there's just not a whole lot to mine on the moon.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to watch the Chick-fil-A special on how the moon was formed.
Yeah.
Oh well, on the Chick-fil-A Plus, great Chick-fil-A Plus,
Yeah.
we're gonna learn that God pushed, said a magic word, and there was the moon. Like good Christians.
I guess that does say that in Genesis, doesn't it? One great light to rule the day and one to rule the night. It's right there.
Yep.
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 Okay.
Made an incantation.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to get to what I think of as the biggest story that I found pretty amazing. There's this huge data breach, the biggest one ever, with 3 billion records, although not 3 billion people, but apparently it's extremely accurate. All kinds of people have been looking up. You find all your previous addresses. It's one of those data brokers you've been hearing about for years. But the part of this story that amazed me, in the first place, of course, it means your social security number and all your addresses and everything are out there, and it's too late to do anything about it. The bad guys got it. They tried to sell it. Somebody leaked it. It's just available to the whole world now. So that's discouraging. But the amazing thing is, Troy Hunt and other people researching this looked into the database and they tried to find people who paid for data deletion services. There's services like one of them is called Delete Me. You pay them money and they will tell all the data brokers to remove your records. And those people are not in the dump database. So, I mean, as far as I know, all the security professionals I know that heard about Delete Me did not pay for it because I think they all have the same cynical attitude I did. Well, you're paying for something. You don't even know if they did it. They're probably just taking your money and doing nothing. So none of the security professionals did it, but the people that did it are actually not breached. So apparently these delete my record services are in fact doing the job, and it is in fact a good job to do. So that surprised me. It makes me wonder about another thing I sneer at, which is credit monitoring after a data breach. I've always heard, why even bother? It doesn't matter. I don't know. But one thing I really should do is freeze my credit. I was thinking maybe I should give my students extra credit for doing that. We should all freeze our credit. Now that they've dumped everybody's social security number, freezing your credit is your really only defense. And there are some links telling you how to do it. I haven't done it yet. I know Doug did it. We should probably all do that.
It's a very simple process. I did that like over a decade ago.
Good. Well, it's clearly the thing to do unless you're actually planning on taking out a loan soon. The only
Right. Well, you
take
can
out a loan would be the bad
thaw
guys. What's
no,
that?
you can thaw. You can thaw.
Right. You can thaw it if you want to. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You can say that, oh, for these number of days
Right.
that the credit be available. But otherwise, you just keep it frozen, and you don't have to worry about it. And it's all free.
Well, I'll have to find the instructions and do it then and tell my students, because everybody better do it now after this breach. It's just ridiculous. The bad guys totally have your data, and they could totally be taking out loans in your name. And that's the only reasonable defense for people who didn't have the sense to purchase delete me earlier.
Well, there are ways to test if you are part of this data dump.
Yeah.
And I did. So let me share my screen again. I'm trying to find it. So let's see. Steps you can take. How to freeze your credits.
Yeah, there's some online search page that will show if you're in it.
Yeah, 4 ways. I think this was probably written by an AI. This is the problem with the modern net. Okay. npdbreach.com. Here we go.
npd.pentester.com. Oh, there's another one. You might prefer npd.pentester.com is another one that does it. Yeah.
All right. So let me put in my name and zip code. I'm going to switch away here.
All right. Might as well look myself up in here while you're at it.
No results found. I'll look myself up by the phone number. No results found. I'll even do my social security number.
What? All right. Thing.
Oh. Weird.
Results found?
Right.
Yeah, but it's not.
No matches found. I'm apparently not in it. Although maybe it's because it's got my full legal name. That's probably it. Oh, okay. Yep. When I put in my full legal name, it's got about 20 records about me, including all my old addresses. Yep, all my old addresses, many copies of my social security numbers, many phone numbers, which, yep. So they've got, yep, it's all my data's out there. And
it looks like, yeah, it looks like they have some old versions of my address or something. They don't have my phone number. So they don't have any recent data to go along with my social security number, but you know what? They don't, yeah, I'm not particularly worried.
yeah, well, they could in principle use this to get a credit in your name. That's the big risk.
But they don't know my address.
Do they need a current address? What's that?
I said either try to steal your credit or put together a scam.
In principle, yeah, it's just up to the bad guys to think of some way. Yeah, it's a social engineering game to figure out how to use this.
Yep.
Like, I wouldn't have thought of like killing yourself off as the way to use this kind of data either. But anyway.
So I'm thinking that, I mean, if I put in just a random social security number, results found. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they have anything on me. It doesn't look like they really do.
Yeah, well, I think freezing your credit is a recommended thing to do. I should really do that. That's probably it. You don't want anybody messing with your credit. Anyway, we might as well go on to Irvin. Has got Google, a protest at
Oh
Google.
yeah. Yes. Once again, Google hates the troops.
The troops, you say?
Yes, the troops. Uh, Google, the engineers for Google's AI they're protesting so that Google itself doesn't have any more military contracts.
This has been going on for a while, and it's about DeepMind. DeepMind is their AI product, right?
Yes.
This has been going on. I've heard many
So
versions of this. Google keeps getting military contracts, and then their staff protests.
yep. Yep. So this is just yet another wave of Google folks being against the DoD.
Well, Google started as a bunch of hippies going to do no evil, whereas companies like Oracle and Microsoft never had any pretensions to be anything other than here to make money wherever it may be. And I think Google is sort of having difficulty turning into a typical corporation because they started out with the sort of more high-minded goals.
Yeah, but they lost that high and mighty goal forever and a day ago, especially after the two founders left.
Well, apparently there's still some people on the staff that expect Google to be more moral than an average corporation.
Yeah.
But I mean, they aren't
I
actually
don't think
canceling
anyone.
Are they liable to
I
cancel
don't
the
think
contract
any one of us
because these
really cares.
protests? What'd you say?
I said I don't think anybody really thinks that they're still high and mighty their goals, but I don't. I also don't. I have not heard them cancel any of their military contracts.
Well, I think they actually
It's just
canceled
one
one
of those
about a year
usual.
ago because of the protests, but we'll see if they cancel this one. Yeah. But
Yeah,
you
we'll see.
never hear of the Microsoft staff complaining about their military work. I don't think anybody at Microsoft imagines they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean it's very lucrative.
Yeah, well, I know some people that do military contract work. Nothing wrong with it, really. Anyway, all right. Well, I think that's it for this one, and we'll have another one on Tuesday. Farewell, folks.